Hello everyone, and welcome to our monthly coach webinar for early achievers coaches working in ECEAP funded classrooms. This is Kelly DeBoer, pre-K specialist with the Department of Early Learning. First, I'm going to introduce who is in the room with me today. We have Sue Rose, pre-K specialist.
Hi.
And Jonathan Green, QRIS Technical Services Manager.
Good morning.
And Karen Gans will not be joining us today. On today's webinar, Jonathan Green is going to share some WELS updates. We're going to provide clarification around the coach webinars that are offered by DEL and SQL. We will share information on the UW's data collection process. And we will discuss sharing rating information with sites. And we'll talk about creating quality improvement plans. Then we're going to talk briefly about coordinated support for coaching. First, Sue is going to get us started with a poll.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. It's Sue Rose, and I just wanted to say thanks for joining us. And I also want to remind you to make sure we have everyone on muted, but if you happen to be using your microphone and speakers on your computer, you'll want to make sure that your microphone is muted. Otherwise, we'll be able to hear you typing and having conversation, okay? All right, so we wanted to start off with a poll, and I'm going to launch that because we are curious about how it's been going in WELS. We want to know, what have you done thus far? And so take some time to say where you're at in this process. We're just kind of trying to get a feel for where everyone is at. Okay, great. It looks like about 76% of you have already voted, and you guys keep doing it. That's great. And as it looks right now, okay, and I just heard someone coughing, so I'm going to just see if there's anybody that I can see on our attendee list that maybe is using the speakers on their computer or hasn't muted their phone yet. So we are recording this webinar, so let's just make sure that we have good audio for everyone. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, but it looks like almost half of you, 43%, have at least logged into WELS and taken a look around. So that's wonderful. Then we have close to 20% have entered notes. 26% have already started on a QIP. That's outstanding. And a little less than 10% haven't logged into WELS yet and would like to have some additional help. So we really appreciate you doing this poll for us. It helps us in our work in supporting you. So great, thanks. So I'm going to close that. And actually, I'm going to try something. I'm going to share it. And it's shared with everybody, I think. So now I'm going to hide it. Move it aside. Did that get that off your screen? Okay, great. Thank you. So we want to get some WELS updates. So we have Jonathan Green joining us. Jonathan, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Just a few updates. Thank you to everyone who's been using the QRIS at del.wa.gov mailbox to send in WELS questions and technical support issues. Please continue to do so. If you have WELS technical questions, don't send them to Merit. They'll just send them to us, or don't send them necessarily directly to your ECAP specialist or the ECAP email box. Go ahead and send us them directly at the QIS inbox. If you have more policy questions, though, those are things you'll want to continue to speak with your ECEAP specialist about. We have a couple updates I want to share with you. We released a new version of Wells to the live environment on Monday morning. And the main reason why that's of interest to you is there was a fix to a bug that was preventing coaches from seeing notes entered by other coaches at the sites they're connected to. There are some sites that have a history of coaching support or may have more than one coach working with the site, and a coach was only able to see their own notes but not the notes entered by other coaches. And so that bug should have been fixed in the release that went out Monday morning. But if you do have any issues there, please do contact us again at the QRIS inbox, and we'll figure out what's going on. So that should be all set with the folks. Also, just a reminder to people, and I'm not sure if we touched base on this in the past, but Wells is really a repository for all the data on the assessment and rating and coaching support for a site. And because it's a repository for the assessment, and the assessment and the rating happens at a particular point in time, that data related to the site in terms of the rooms at the site, the staff at the site, is actually kind of frozen in time. It's based on what's submitted, the request for on-site application, where you enter in, or maybe not you, but someone that your granted contractor enters in the rooms and the staff for that particular site. And that's the information that we have sent from Merit to Wells that's used to then set up the rooms and the staff at the site. So you do actually have the capacity to add that information manually into Wells, but we don't want you to do that because we want to capture what the site was like at that particular point in time when the EROS was submitted, when the site was assessed and rated. The ELM system is a place where you can update information in terms of, or your grantee contractor can update information in terms of the different sites you have, the different classrooms, the different staff, all that kind of stuff. Wells is really meant to be more of a snapshot in time of what the site was like when it was assessed and rated. The one living part, of course, about that is when you're entering the notes in the quality improvement plan, which Sue's going to be talking about in a few minutes, where you have more live information that you're entering on a continual basis in there. But the information for the rooms, the staff, the assessments, the rating is really meant to be a frozen slice in time, just so you're aware of that for future reference.
It's really helpful. So Jonathan, you said something about an EROS. What's an EROS?
Sorry, I'm using the colloquial term. There's the Early Achievers Request for On-Site Evaluation, which of course is an acronym that we have to turn into a little word. But I'm guessing many of you probably are familiar with this, but when the site is ready to have the data collection visit, that's the application that's completed and submitted in Merit, and then it's approved, and then the UW folks do their work as far as contacting the site to get the data collection process going. So that's the information that's actually transmitted from Merit to Wells to help populate some of the information related to the site in Wells.
Okay, that's really helpful. And Kelly has entered the QRIS inbox email address in our chat box on this webinar. The other thing I want to say as we move on is please do type in your questions because we want to be able to help answer those as we move through our time with you today. And also please know that we may not be able to answer everything, and so Kelly and I will work together to get those answers out to you. Okay, so Kelly, are there any questions in the inbox, or shall we move on?
There are no questions, so we can
Okay.
go ahead and move on.
Great. This is you.
So this is Kelly, and we wanted to provide some clarification around the webinars that are offered by DEL each month and by SQL monthly. So the DEL webinars are created by the ECEAP team, and the SQL webinars are created by SQL at the University of Washington. The DEL webinars are designed for coaches who are working in ECEAP-funded classrooms. And the sequel webinars are designed for coaches who are working specifically in licensed pathway sites or hybrid sites. So DEL is all coaches working in ECEAP-funded classrooms, and sequel is specifically those coaches working in licensed pathway sites or hybrid sites. The focus for the DEL webinars is primarily ERS and class, and the focus for the sequel monthly webinars is the files of supporting materials along with ERS and class information. Our DEL webinars also focus on WELS data entry requirements specifically for ECAP. And the sequel webinars also include information on Coaching Companion. The DEL webinars are the webinars that are required by the ECAP contract.
That's great. So thank you for that, Kelly. So I just want to point out that you're currently participating in a DEL webinar. And so you're attending these with us. So it's the ECAP team that puts these on. And then the sequel actually stands for Center for Quality Early Learning. And it's UW who puts those on. So I want you to know that you're more than welcome to join those webinars. They are not required by your ECAP contract, but they do cover some pretty cool stuff. And if you find it relevant, feel free. It's really great. But sometimes they focus on things that might be a little more confusing for sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway. So when they start focusing on a file of supporting materials, you might be like, I have no idea what that even is. But that's because if your site is on the Head Start ECAP pathway, you're not doing a file of supporting materials. So we just wanted to make that clear to everybody. So thank you for that, Kelly. Mm-hmm. Okay, any questions come up for that? Okay, great. So the other thing is data collection. So we kind of talked about this last month. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the process and who is a part of the data collection team. Many of you have already experienced data collection at this point, but we wanted to make sure that you understand the importance of the community liaison. And so the position of the community liaison, they actually connect with the sites prior to rating, or data collection rather. And for sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway, they do that by phone. If it's a licensed pathway or a hybrid site, you're looking at an in-person visit. And they take a look at the file of supporting materials during that visit and make sure that parent consents are in order. They also confirm block-out dates for either pathway, and that's usually what's listed in Merit, and they just make sure that that's exactly what you still want. And they're there to answer questions and make a seamless visit for data collectors. They want to try and get a good idea of your site makeup and location so that when the data collectors come, they're not having to ask a lot of questions and interrupt teaching staff. But as I said, they review the file of supporting materials for those pathways or those participants. So the data collectors, I think it's important for everyone to know that we get a lot of questions about, like, do the University of Washington data collectors actually have any experience with preschoolers? Do they understand how hard it is to be a teacher? And actually, yes. They have experience teaching young children. They have at least a bachelor's degree, and they work full-time. So this isn't just a part-time gig for them. And they have at the University of Washington, for a data collector position, a high level of inter-rater reliability. And that gets tested every 30 days or every 10th visit. So they have to maintain high reliability to maintain that position or continue doing data collection. And the University of Washington, they have rigorous data collection protocols and procedures. They are very precise about how data is collected, reviewed, and finalized. And so for sites that are on that Head Start ECAP pathway, the data collectors are coming in and conducting the ERS or class tools in each classroom. And so at least one of these tools is going to be performed in each of your classrooms for birth to 5. And that's important to note because Early Achievers is actually a site rating. And so any classrooms that are serving 0 to 5 in a classroom, in a site, need to be on that E-Rose that Jonathan was talking about. That request for on-site evaluation is where you enter the classrooms and assign teaching staff in merit. And that's how the University of Washington knows what sites they're visiting. And then they can decide, okay, if there's only one classroom at a site, that classroom will get both tools. And then depending on how many classrooms are at a site, they have a protocol in place to determine which classroom gets which tool. And then, so the data collection process kind of looks like this. So they go out to the site, they conduct the tools and collect that data. They bring it back to UW, and they have at least 2 professionals that take a look at the data that they pulled. Then they bring it to a round table of other professionals that are a part of the data collection team, and they review the data to make sure that it looks good and it's precise and accurate and that there's no questions around it. UW then sends it to the Department of Early Learning. UW then sends the site a post-survey, and then you move towards rating finalization in WELS. Jonathan?
One other piece as well, we actually do quality checking at the DEL Early Achievers end as well. Our team does some sampling of the ratings before they're finalized in a particular cohort that's about to be published, just to double check. So there's probably triple and quadruple checking going on between the University of Washington and the Department of Early Learning.
I really appreciate that. That's really good information. Kelly, is there a question?
We have a few questions, actually.
Oh,
first, just going back to the comparison of the 2 webinars, there was a comment made by Christine Wilson sharing that even though the DEL webinars only the DEL webinars are required, we're required to collaborate for our blended sites. Mm-hmm. And so listening to the SQL webinars has been really helpful and very necessary. So great point, Christine. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for saying that.
And then regarding the community liaison, excuse me, Joan Newcomb had a question. Where does that community liaison come from, Sue?
Thanks, Joan. That community liaison comes from the University of Washington. They're a part of the data collection team. They just happen to be the first person and typically the last person that a site will communicate with. They're the ones that if you had an issue or a question about something that happened during a data collection visit, you can talk to your community liaison, and they are the go-between between a site and the data collectors. So yeah, they come from the University of Washington. I'm glad you asked that.
Thank you. And we do have a couple others. Nancy Snyder is asking, in a larger center, there are not enough blackout dates to cover field trips for all classes. What would happen if data collectors showed up on a day when a class is going on a field trip?
Okay, so hi Nancy. I think that I got to meet you when I came out on a visit. So I think that would probably be something that, when talking with the community liaison, being able to share that information, saying like, we didn't have enough blockout dates to cover this, because we want you to share that information, Nancy, because they don't want data collectors to go out and not be able to actually collect data. So they will be able to handle that and answer that question directly, but they can't answer it if you don't share it. So do be very open with your community liaison and share that information. So thank you for that.
And Joan just asked for clarification around the community liaison. That is a different person than the person who does the ERS in class, correct?
Yes, very good. Yes, exactly.
Good. And Nancy asked a clarifying question. To verify that a classroom is a class in a center with shared morning and afternoon classrooms. So if every classroom has ERS or class, that means every AM and PM class, right?
No, actually, and Jonathan, you might be able to help me with this, but I think that they just base it on physical classrooms that they take the data from, not necessarily the AM and the PM. Am I right or wrong on that, or do you know?
If the AM and PM session is the same room and the same staff, they would potentially look at one or the other, but not both. If the sessions are in a different room because it's a different environment, they would potentially look at both those rooms that are in both those sessions that are in different rooms, even if they have the same staff, because it's a different
learning environment. Okay.
And if it is the same room but different staff, so for example, if you had a Head Start program in the morning session with one set of teachers and an ECEAP session in the afternoon with a different set of teachers but in the same physical environment, the same room, then they would potentially look at both sessions because it's a different set of teachers.
That's super helpful.
Yeah, Nancy says they do have different staff in the morning and afternoon.
Okay, good. Great questions. Oh my.
And one more question around how do sites know if their rating has been finalized? I think we're going to cover that in a few minutes.
We're about to talk about that, and that's a great question. But ultimately, Jonathan, can you share a little bit of light on this subject around when sites have a finalized rating that is an initial rating, not a re-rating, because I know that goes out different, or we actually talk about how those look a little different?
So I'll kind of start at the beginning just to clarify some of the timelines, because I know that can be confusing to people. So when someone submits the famous EROS, the Early Achievers Request for On-Site Evaluation, that's what starts the timeline as far as the cohort that they're in for the data collection and for their rating. Now, the data collection is a window, so someone may get visited at the beginning of that window, the middle, the end, etc. And then the rating will be finalized and published on a particular date. And the way those work with the cohorts is the published dates are every other month. They're the middle of the month. February was the 16th simply because the 15th was a Sunday. But they're typically the middle of the month, so February 15, 16. April 15 is the next big one where a lot of ECEAP sites, in fact all the ones that are existing sites have a finalized rating published by that date. Then the next one after that will be not May, but will be June, et cetera, et cetera. And so when you submit the request for on-site evaluation starts the clock, puts you in the cohort, and then opens up the data collection window that you have the discussion, as Sue just mentioned, with the community liaison about blackout dates, et cetera, and then you move forward from there. So you may have been visited early in that window or late in that window, but your actual finalized rating will be published till that one particular date. In the past, the ratings were published as they happen, but with the cohort calendar, they're now published only every other month. So that's why you may have to wait a couple months, even if you were visited and have a data collection done at another time, for example. So just so you're clear about that. The assessment information is entered by the University of Washington. I believe it has to be done within a day or two when they actually collect it, and then to do all the vetting, quality checking that Sue already discussed. But the rating isn't actually finalized in Wells, and you don't receive the auto email from Merit on behalf of early achievers telling you that your official rating was finalized and published until you hit one of those February 16th, April 15th, whatever, every other month dates. There's also a 30-day appeal period after your rating is published, that if you have concerns about your rating, you can appeal that. There's a whole process that's described in the participant operating guidelines, which you hopefully all, maybe not you as the coach, but your contractor has access to on the DEL website. If not, let us know. We can direct you to where that is. The whole first half of the guidelines have to do with licensed facilities. The whole second half have to do with Head Start ECEAP facilities. So you may have a mixture of types of facilities, so both parts may or may not be relevant to you. But after that 30-day appeal period is ended, that's when actually your rating is not only, it's already been published in Wells and you can see it in Merit, but that's when it is then visible on the Child Care Check website, which is publicly available throughout the state on our DEL website. If you go to our DEL homepage, you can click on, there's a link to Child Care Check. And in the past, we displayed just licensed facilities information. Now it includes all facilities, including ECEAP and Head Start facilities that are participating early achievers. So there's a lot of information there as well. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of the sequence of how things happen in terms of when the different parts of the rating process occur when the official finalized rating is published.
Okay, and that is so if a site is going through a re-rating process, then it's a rolling finalization date, like they
will keep their original initial rating date. So once you start the timeline for your 3-year rating cycle, so you have an initial rating, 3 years later you come due for what's called a renewal rating. If you're re-rating, you keep your original date. It's just that your rating may be changed as of that re-rating process.
Okay. So we do have a couple of questions.
Okay, great.
Christine Wilson is showing a situation where all 5 of their ECEAP sites were rated in December, but only 3 had the ratings finalized and published on February 15th. Wondering why about the other 2 sites and why, when those were the first to be rated, their scores had not been published. But then further asked clarifying question, so the 2 first sites rated will be the last to be finalized due to the date the button was pushed for the rating request. Is that correct?
All 3 of us are looking at each other.
So repeat the question, Kelly, just so I'm clear.
Sure. So they had 5 sites that were rated in December.
So just to clarify, when the site has the data collection visit, that is not the same thing as being rated. So it's important to keep that in mind. You may have the data collection visit at a certain point in time. That does not mean that your finalized rating is published at a certain point in time because of that window of the data collection. You may be published the next published date or maybe the one after that, depending on which cohort you're in. And we've had some movement back and forth for a variety of different issues of people from cohort to cohort, especially in the ECEAP world. So that may be part of why a group of sites was visited, had the data collection, and maybe half of them have the rating already published, and the other half, for some particular reason, they may be holding off on publishing the rating until a later time.
Yeah.
We'd have to know kind of individual information about those sites to really respond to the question, so feel free to contact us if you have a specific question about specific sites, and we can look into that.
Yeah, and also, Christine, I think you already know too, like Manette can help answer that question, right, because it's so early achievers focused. And I appreciate what you're saying, because what's really different right now because of the Early Start Act, you're all well aware that we created this ECEAP reading cohort. So we had a larger data collection window to move all of our existing ECEAP sites through. So Christine, that's where it gets a little bit more tricky about the publishing of those ratings. And Manette can help you, and Jonathan is obviously willing to help where he can as well. So we want to get you answers. So do reach out. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Kelly?
We do. We have several questions, actually, and I think you've answered some of them, so I'll skip around. Okay. Lori Severson is asking, will both AM and PM classes be rated if they have the same teacher but a different teacher assistant and different group of children?
So, hi, Lori. I think, Jonathan, help correct me if I'm wrong here. So if you're offering, you're in the same learning environment, same lead teachers, different assistant teachers, and of course different children because it's a different class, will UW look at both of those classes? So the answer is going to be yes if they end up, if there's only one classroom at the site, then they'll end up collecting data throughout the day of the ERS and the class tools, yeah? And then, but would they, if there's multiple classrooms that have this kind of a setup, same teaching staff, different assistant teachers, AM, PM?
I think that would be a follow-up question. I haven't heard this particular permutation of this situation. So I think that might be a follow-up question with the University of Washington as far as how would they view that? Would that be considered one classroom because they're looking just at the lead teacher position being consistent, or because the assistant teacher is different? I mean, I guess probably they consider that one classroom because it's the same lead teacher in both sessions in the same room. That'd be my guess, but we want to double check that.
So, Lori, because you typed this into the questions box, we have a record of it, and Kelly's going to make a note that we will follow up and help get you some answers. And everybody who's on this webinar with us today, please do use Minette Mason, our Early Achievers Integration Specialist. This is her area of expertise, and she also speaks with UW regularly, so she can help get you answers. So keep asking those questions. I'm so glad that you are. Okay, what else?
So Mary McBride is curious if there is a place where she can read the observation protocols. Sites are reporting that class observations are typically a 20-minute observation, and they were under the impression that there should be 2 20-minute cycles in the Early Achievers QRAS protocol.
Mary McBride, hello, it's Sue Rose. So that's a great question, and it's actually something I've heard more than once now. So we are making a note of this, and we need to get that information and get an answer around that. So thank you for asking it.
And Becky's asking if you could please show where the updated Early Achievers guidelines are found.
Yes, we will show you. We're going to actually have at the end of this webinar, we have a slide that talks about resources, and we will remember to go to the DEL website. I made a note earlier, and so did Kelly. So we will take you there. Great question, Becky. I was thinking that when Jonathan was talking that I should take you guys there right now, but I figured I would mess things up, so I didn't. Okay, are we clear? Okay, let's get going. I'm so glad that everybody has, well, I'm glad we're having a conversation. I guess I wish we had all the answers, so let's move on. It's poll time. Okay, so we wanted to ask a question. I'm going to launch a poll here. And so Kelly, is that poll on?
It is.
Okay, so we're about to head into how you can go about sharing rating information with your site and how to build a QIP. And what we want to know, what this question is about, is do you want more conversation around how to build that relationship with teachers, how to talk about the rating information so that teachers understand it and you can really build on that coaching model and framework? Or are you more interested in like the technical pieces? You want to know like, how am I doing this in WELS? What are the timelines? And I am asking only one or the other at this point because we really want to see the area of focus. Of course, we'll support both of these, not just one or the other, but we'll weigh more heavily based on how you respond to this poll. So I'll give you a little bit more time. About 71% have voted. %. Ooh, 87. We might get to 100%. Okay. Ooh, 89%. Great. So what I'm going to say is that it looks like the majority of people we've got right now, 93% of you have voted. And we're looking at about 69% really are most interested in that technical side of creating the quality improvement plans. 31% are interested in more of that relationship, the coaching piece. So that's great because you know what you're getting today is a little bit of both, but I will be taking you through WELS, and we're going to do that next. So what I want to do is I want to, oh, sorry, I don't want to do that. Oh, goodness. let's see if I can keep us from, sorry about that, everybody. I don't want to manage the poll right now. I just want to close it. Okay, close, share, hide. Okay. Thanks for doing that poll with us. All right. Now we're going to talk about sharing rating information with sites. So I want to say thank you to those of you that I talked with a little bit about your process around sharing rating information with sites, because we do have some contractors who have sites that are already rated and that have been working on quality improvement plans with their sites. And many of the contractors that went through the pilot are the ones that have this type of experience. I also had a chance to talk with someone from Child Care Aware who helped me in kind of learning how they go about sharing this information with their sites. So what I want to say is, as we move into this portion of our time together, we think it's important that we're relying back on the coach framework and moving forward on that relationship building. So as you're doing this work and sharing your rating data with sites and building the QIP, just remember that relationship and that building it, which I believe all of you already have with your sites, is really time well spent. You're going to be really obviously focusing on the positive and sharing successes with the teachers and really helping them see that your role is to build on the great work that they're doing, and that Early Achievers is about that continuous quality improvement. So when you have a site that rates a level 4, they'll still be doing a QIP and action plan item to always reach further and towards the goals created. So you may want to be prepared as you head into these conversations with some helpful phrases that are really strengths-based, so that teachers are really seeing this as an opportunity to share with you and reflect how they feel like their work is going. And keeping in mind, as you all know, that just like teaching, coaching isn't cookie cutter, and it's going to look different for each coach and each coach with different teachers and different sites. And really using your action plan is your roadmap for the coaching journey. So just wanted to outline, so when we're talking today about a QIP, we're talking quality improvement plans. And this is really the sum of all of your goals. When we're talking about the goal, these are actually broad and overarching goals. And then the action plan is actually more of that specific SMART goal strategies. You can refer back to our December coach webinar when we had Soleil Boyd from the University of Washington join us, and also the WELS orientation number 4 for additional support on creating this. All right, so let's look at some data. So when you log into your Merit, you go to the Merit homepage and you log into your Merit account, and then you click the Users tab, and then select Go to WELS. Okay, so this is what's going to be popping up on many of you have already gone into WELS, and this is the beautiful thing that you see. So we're seeing here that Kelly is behind on her action plans by about 2,000 of them, and so we're telling Kelly to just relax. And
Kelly no longer works for you.
No, not true. So we want you guys to, I think I said this before, that in visiting different contractors and talking with coaches, we've been hearing a lot about the angst around, like, am I behind in what I'm supposed to be entering in WELS? What are the timelines? And now seeing this, I'm just thinking, if I were a coach, this would really just bug me that it says that I'm behind when I haven't even been told what to do next. So take a deep breath, and we will show you what the expectations are. Okay, so you're in Wells. You're going to select a site. And I selected ABC Early Learning Center. Please know that that is a fake site that I just typed in. So if you happen to know an ABC Learning Center, have no fear. This is not really them. So I clicked on the site. And so if you go to the QRIS tab up here, this is the page that it shows you. And I want to walk you through this page because it's a great starting point where you may want to start off with a phone call to a site to say, hey, your rating information came in, and I want to go over it briefly with you, and then schedule a time to come out and go over it more in a more detailed way. But I wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. So working our way from the top down, we can immediately see that this site is a rated level 4. We can see here that the initial date of this rating is July 1st, 2015. And it's an initial rating. It would say it was a re-rating if that's what it was. As we scoot down here, you can immediately see that this site is on the Head Start ECEAP reciprocity pathway and was given the 45 reciprocity points. Moving down where it says learning environment, we can see that this site earned 40 points out of a maximum of 55 points. Okay, so now we're getting down to the class instructional support, engaged support for learning, and we can share with them, you received a 4.08, which is 15 early achievers points. You may want to tell them that this is actually double the national average and twice the minimum threshold for early achievers, which is a huge celebration. Continuing on down, you can tell them that for class emotional support and classroom organization, they got a 6.355 for a total of 20 early achievers points, which is outstanding and the maximum for that area. So they should feel really good about that. It will be something to definitely celebrate with them. And then moving down to the Eckers point, they got a 3.28 for 5 early achievers points. So one thing I will say that I've heard from those who have shared rating data with teachers and sites is that this is where, although this is above the minimum threshold for early achievers threshold for ERS is a 3.0, this site is above that and earned the 5 points. However, there are some teachers who are going to be very disappointed with this, and they may have some a response and a reaction to that. So be prepared that although there's glory in being a rated level 4, there's also a lot of feelings and emotions around a score that they may feel should have been higher. Okay, Jonathan, what you got?
Just to clarify, on the QIS page, there are a couple different date fields that you will see. And the one at the very top in the middle is the one you actually want to ignore.
Right up
where
here.
it says rating dates, and it has the 3/2/2016. For the folks at the UW, there's another field below that called Rate This Site. And the reason why this is here is so that if there's a re-rating of the site, it can be run through the rating engine again on this page. So that date will always display today's date whenever you happen to be in Wells. Unfortunately, it's not completely blocked out. It'd be nice if it were. So just go ahead and pretend it's not there. The key dates you want to look at are right above the stars on the upper left side. You'll see the 7/1/2015. On the right side, you see the history, and this will display all the different types of ratings the site has had. And so you see the 7/1/2015 as well. Down below, it has the quality rating explanations. We also have the 7/1/2015. So that is the actual date when the button was pushed, so to speak, and the rating was finalized for this initial rating. So just ignore that date at the very top in the middle, even though it's the most prominent one, and it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
It's actually the other dates that will tell you what the actual rating date for that particular site is.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out because it is very confusing to me, and I honestly did not see the other 3 times it's mentioned when
look for the 3 right correct dates, not that one glaring one in the middle.
Which is the only one I saw. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Kelly, any questions that are about this?
Shana has a question about the activity log in Wells. When she goes into the activity log, she cannot find the create button to record any notes.
So actually the activity log and the notes tab are 2 different functions in Wells. I'll start with the notes tab since that's kind of displayed right here. The notes tab is available when you're in a particular site, and that's where you can enter notes related to work you've done with the site, typically connected to the quality improvement plan. The activity log is on the main landing page of Wells, and that's where you can put in different types of activities you do that may not be notes. So it may be office work. We discussed on the last webinar, that's where you can put in information about your professional development as a coach, including attending the Wells and coaching webinars that are put on like today. And then you can connect what you enter in the activity log either to a site, to multiple sites, or to no site. So maybe something that simply you did in the office. It may be a resource that you shared with the site or with all the sites that you provide coaching services to. So that's the difference between the functionality of the activity log tab on the main landing page, which is kind of a universal functionality, versus the notes tab within a particular site where you put in things that are directly connected to that site.
So I'm going to just take a backwards one. So on this screenshot, I haven't selected a site just yet. They're down here. But right over here to the right is the activity log. And it's not connected to a site. It's out here in the main area. Okay, that's helpful. So by clicking sites and going here, clicking on it, it gets me to my notes section up here. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Move through my little animations. Anything else, Kelly, that's about this?
Yeah, it's about the activities. Joan is asking, is activity tab meant to list everything you do in a 40-hour week? And Nancy's asking, is the activity log required? So those are 2 great questions.
Yeah, and this is Sue Rosen. Well, yes, the activity log is required at this point for tracking what you're doing with sites. And I need to get clarification. It's my understanding is that we want you to be tracking everything that you're doing with sites and how long you're spending on that, how long you're training. If I'm wrong on that, then we will definitely let you know. Does that sound right, Kelly?
And Molly's saying there's currently no audio, so I just want to do a quick sound check and see if other folks are hearing us.
And you'll type that in the questions or the chat box?
Yeah, go ahead and put information in the chat box if you can't hear. Okay, it sounds like it's fixed. So
okay. Oh, great. Good. Okay. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to take you to a deeper dive. So maybe you decide you want to go over, just share the exciting news of like, you're a level 4 and you want to do that over the phone, and then you want to say, hey, let's schedule some time together to look more closely at the data, and we'll schedule that time and work on a QIP. So I'm in Wells and I want to go to the Assessments tab at the top. And you can see over here the assessments that were done at this preschool, at these classrooms. I want to take a look at Eckers, so I'm going to click on View. That takes me to this web page. And I want to get more report detail by clicking down in the bottom right-hand corner. And it will show me this. It will give me information about the school and any information that was captured for the ERS around the youngest and oldest enrolled. It'll also tell me in the upper left-hand corner, reminding me that it was 3.28 for the score. But I would need actual data. So let's go up to page 2 up here and click. Now we have something to talk about. Now we're in and we can talk with the teaching staff about these scores. This is a great place to start and build on the strengths around space and furnishing and talk about that, especially the 6 under child-related display. I might actually move down to the 7 that they got here under encouraging children to communicate, maybe have them reflect on if they felt like, yeah, that's definitely an area of strength for me and things were going really smooth during the time of data collection. So building on those strengths. So now we kind of move into this area, personal care routines. You may want to start off by saying that this is an area that typically scores low for many, and that there may be some areas where we don't have a lot of control about scoring higher. But I would definitely think about this one. Greeting and departing is definitely an area where we could work with the teacher on improving this score. We have control over this. So it also might be an opportunity for us to talk about, like, what's their normal practice and how are things going on that day. I might also even talk with them about their, did anything happen on the playground regarding these 2s that were under gross motor. So we're just having a conversation about, you know, pumping them up, being their cheerleader, making them feel really supported around this work. And so I would bring out copies of this information to kind of go over with the teachers. Kelly.
Just want to check in on sound again. I'm getting some, it sounds like the sound is cutting in and out for some people, not everyone. So please let us know, keep letting us know if you're not hearing us, but I'm not seeing anything on our end that could be causing that. So we'll try and follow up at the end and repeat anything that may have been missed. So please continue to let us know.
Yeah, and I will hold the telephone a little more closely while I'm talking to try and cut out any outside noise here. Okay, so let's create a quality improvement plan. So how are we going to do this? Go to the QIP tab, hit Create QIP, and it brings up this pop-up box. You'll want to, under Quality Improvement Plan Type, choose QIF. Under what categories should be included in the QIP? All is what you want to choose out of the drop-down, and then click on Save. And then, look, it'll appear down here. It will say Early Achievers as the QIP name, but please know that that's the default name, and you can't change it, even if you'd like to make it a little bit more specific. It always will say Early Achievers. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on it. And that opens up this part. And so in this presentation, you'll see that I have a QIP kind of already highlighted here. So pretend this right here said, this says, click to define goal, and instead of what it actually says. So, so we're going to click there because we want to define a goal around class combined learning environment. And you'll see all the different quality standard areas that you will be creating a QIP around. But we're going to just start here. You don't have to create a goal around each one of these. How's the audio, Kelly?
It's really mixed.
It's mixed.
It's come and go for individuals. So I'm not sure what's causing it. Sorry, folks. Thanks for hanging with us.
Okay. And we're just taking a look at our equipment. I'm holding the receiver close to my mouth. And we're plugged into the wall. Okay. Okay, so sorry about that. I know that's frustrating to try and hear us when it's going in and out like that. Okay.
Working fine for some and not for others.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to click to define goal. And it comes up like this. So this is our opportunity to type out a goal under class combined learning environment. And so I think that I even put my instructional support. I think I put my goal as something that it shouldn't be. I put as my goal, improve instructional support in each preschool classroom. It's broad, it's overarching, it's big. And I'm going to click Save. And so now it says that goal that I just typed in. It says it right here. And then what I want to do is I want to create an action plan. So what am I going to do with my teachers? What is she or he going to do? So here I chose, under the subscale domain, I chose instructional support, and I chose quality of feedback. And so I want you to know that I will take you to the SQL webpage further in this webinar. So the examples that I have thrown together here are not necessarily like perfect examples of how yours should look. You're going to be much better at this, and but just know this is how you move through WELS. And so for the action plan, it's very descriptive of what I'm going to be doing with, that the teacher will be doing, specific around like, I'm going to ask questions that require more than one-word responses. I'm going to ask 5 open-ended questions during free play, 3 days per week, by February. So those sources, video equipment, and a tutorial on VoiceThread or other video sharing programs. And then you'll just go up and click Save. So I'm certain that Jonathan has something to add. And Kelly, I know that you have something to add. Jonathan.
Just one couple things briefly. The target completion date, I believe, is the field that will then populate back to your home page when you land in WELS, where it shows your action plans and how they're progressing. So the date that you put in here is then going to start the countdown clock, so to speak, that will show whether you're underdue or overdue with action plans, because that page is not for the QIP as a whole, but for the individual action plans within a QIP, because a QIP can have more than one action plan obviously connected to it, depending on which of the standard elements that you choose to focus on.
Well, that is really helpful. So hopefully, so Kelly, now you know, by creating this, it's going to lower, that's why you have 2,000 overdue, is that you maybe...
Kelly is back in employment with DEO.
Yes, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Jonathan?
Just one other brief thing. The last standard element that's listed on that lengthy list within the QIP is called professional development and training. And when you, if you choose to use that and you want to select a new staff improvement goal, what it will then give you when you click on that yellow button, which you can't see right now, but when you're in WELS you'll be able to see it, is it will then give you a drop-down menu from which you can select particular staff people who you want to set a professional development training goal for. And that list of staff is directly connected to the staff that are listed under the staff tab for that site, which is the information that comes from the request for on-site evaluation that we talked about earlier. So all these things are kind of connected. So if you go in to do a QIP, but you haven't submitted that application and there are no staff for that site, that's why you will not see particular staff members in that drop-down menu. And we've had a couple questions at the QRIS inbox about that. So you will have to wait to actually use that particular standard element until you actually have staff that have been loaded into that particular site that you want to set up that goal for. So just keep that in mind. If that's why you're not seeing it, that might be the issue. If it's something else, again, please feel free to let us know at QRIS and we'll see if there's some sort of a defect in the WELS system.
Okay, so that what you just talked about was really helpful. I'm going to just reiterate because I moved back a few slides to go to the page that you were just talking about. Unfortunately, my screenshot does not show exactly what Jonathan's talking about. It's down here. It's down further than my screenshot shows, and it is under, it's what's the standard element?
The standard element, professional development, and training, and then it
Okay.
has where you can click to define the goal, as Sue just talked about. But there's an additional yellow button to the left of the new action plan. It's called New Staff Improvement Goal,
Okay.
where you can select an individual staff person that you want to set up a goal for. So, for example, if there's a lead teacher you want to provide some additional support and training to, this is the place you can do that in Wells.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's super helpful. Okay, let me get back to the regular slide. Let me see where I'm at here. Okay, okay, yes, Kelly, what do we got?
So we have several questions about how to create a QIP when the site has experienced turnover. So the staff that were there for the data collection and the rating are no longer the staff working at the site. So how to address that?
Yeah, how do we address that? So Jonathan, here on this page here, is this something I can type a person responsible, or is it also a drop-down menu?
Let me take a look here.
Okay, so Jonathan's going to take a look to see, because who asked that question, Kelly?
A few coaches were asking.
That's great. You don't have to. Okay.
Actually, the person responsible field is a text field that you can enter in a name. It's not a drop-down.
Okay.
And to the right of it, there's the position, and that is a drop-down, and it has assistant director, assistant teacher, lead teacher, director, et cetera, et cetera. So you can enter in a specific name that you type in and then a specific position title for that person, so it doesn't limit you to the staff that were entered in through the application process into Wells.
Okay, that was a great question out there from you coaches, and Jonathan, great answer. That really is helpful, and it's something that we have heard that, and we do know that, we do have teachers who leave, and now we've got to create these QIPs based on rating information that may or may not apply to that teacher, depending on what we're looking at. And so just using that self-reflection with teachers and, seeing what the score was before, what has changed since then, how are you as a teacher, and then also using your own, when you're doing your class observations and what your baseline is with that teaching staff, kind of working it from there. So I'm really happy to hear that the person responsible area is something that they can type into. So Kelly, let me know if that ends up helping.
So Joan's also asking too, how do the goals apply when the rating doesn't seem to apply anymore?
Okay. So let me take you back here. Okay, so when we go and we create our general goal, I'm wondering if, so let's say I create this goal with a teacher and then that teacher leaves, which I think is what Joan is saying. Jonathan, can I end, like in my progress here, there's an opportunity to just say like, or completed or incomplete?
So the choices for the progress are not started, canceled if you decide that something you're no longer going to do, in progress, which is probably what a lot of them will be for a period of time, and then completed, so that would consider to be a closed and resolved goal.
That's super helpful. So Joan, it looks like we could easily go ahead and cancel out a goal or an action plan that no longer works for a teacher, and just kind of moving. So that's why we want to make sure that whatever the goal is here is nice and big, so that when we have staff turnover, every teacher can work on improving this area under this standard element. And then you may want to, let's just say you canceled that action plan because you're like, okay, but this teacher is not, we need to focus on this other, a different area. Then you can create a goal and start focusing in that.
And you can certainly go back and edit and update the individual action plans for the different standard element areas that you're working on. So they're meant to be living things as well as having what you're starting with, but if it changes, you can certainly update it there and address that as well. So
Okay.
it's meant to be something that's supporting you, supporting the site, supporting the staff.
That's great. How about the goal? Can I change the goal? Let's say I don't want that as a goal. I want to say something different. Is that a possibility, or does the goal stay forevermore? Jonathan's going to take a look because I feel like that's what I'd want to know. Kelly, is there another question while he's looking?
There are. Karen's asking for clarification as to, what happens if the physical space changes? So the site was rated, but now they've moved into a new portable or a new classroom. How does the QIP address that? Or how to address that on the QIP?
Well, we got a couple of different things. Oh, Jonathan, yeah, what's...
So yes, you can go back in. The goal, once you've typed in what the goal is, you'll have that blue type, which is actually a link that will take you into the goal, and you can edit it, update it there, and resave it again, so you can certainly change it.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's great. I'm going to just go back one slide here and see if... Okay, so... Great. So I could just edit it right here, and then click Save again. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Okay. And now, someone had a question. So let's say I take a site through Early Achievers and we are a rated level 4 and we're working on our QIP and our goals, and then I move to a new location, whether it be down the street, across the state, or in a portable. If my address has changed, it means that that rating is no longer applicable to that site. So if my site is Quality Learning Center and I got a rated level 4, but now I've moved down the street to a bigger space and it's wonderful, I no longer am considered rated level 4. I actually have to go through the pre-rating process and work on getting my class and ECR scores ready to go, and then I have to submit a new request for on-site evaluation and go through the data collection process. Then I will create a new QIP, goals, and action plans once I have that.
So what if their classroom just moved but within the same school? Perhaps they were in one portable and now they're in another. Would that be the same for that situation, or is it only if the physical location, the physical address changes?
Well, it actually is. So we have sites that move between classrooms within the same building, and so it would remain the same. You would still hold on to that rating. So my site is Quality Learning Center. I'm a rated level 4, and I'm going to move my classroom from classroom A to classroom B. It's still within that physical location, so I still hold on to that rating. It's when we move outside of what's listed well, for us, it starts all the way to ELMS when you create a new site based on that address, and then it gets pulled into Merit, and then it goes from there. So
what happens in the ECEAP world, as you probably know, is that every July 1st there's a new ECEAP contract, and then there is some movement typically from then into the early fall as far as the site may close and a new site open, classrooms may switch around. But because Early Achievers is site-based, if a site were to close and then reopen at a different location, as Sue was explaining, it would then be considered a new site, and you'd fall into that whole new site, new ECEAP site timeline, which I'm sure people have talked about quite extensively in terms of the Early Start Act. And then, as she mentioned, you would have to go through the whole registration, application, and rating process, even if you have the same staff and equipment and stuff that you've moved over, because everything in Early Achievers is site-based in terms of assessments and rating.
Yeah, that's great. What else, Kelly?
Shayna has a question here. She has 3 options for the role in WELS. She has the grantee contractor and the coach, and the regional coordinator, and she's wondering if it mattered which role she has while entering information.
So if you're doing coaching notes, I would go ahead and toggle yourself into the coach role when you enter notes. I'm not 100% sure if it makes a difference if you enter it in that role versus the grantee contractor role, but I'd go ahead and do that up at the very top of your WELS login. I'm going to pull up my access here. You'll see your name at the very top in red, and it says role. And if you have more than one role, if you're set up as both a grantee contractor and a coach, you'll see a drop-down menu that you can go back and forth between the roles. I'll have to look and see why you still have the regional coordinator role. That's something that we had briefly assigned to people because the grantee contractor role wasn't built out. So Shana, if that's still, I'll take a look in Wells. If that's still the case, I'm going to remove that role because you don't need that. Because for your purposes, the grantee contractor role does everything that you need to do in Wells now. The regional coordinator role is specifically for folks who work with child care where, as I said, we had that in temporary. It's possible I was removing that role from people's records. So I'll go into that right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let me move the microphone away from your keyboard so that we don't hear you typing.
And this is Kelly, and I just want to let everyone know if we don't get to all the questions today, we will follow up with you via email. So we do have record of all the questions, and it may be that we may not get to every one of them today, so we'll work really hard at that, just to let you know.
Great. Thanks. Anything else?
Julie is asking for a site in the hybrid pathway, which coach, CCA or ECEAP, writes the QIP and action plans. If one coach writes the QIP and action plans, can another contribute with further documentation, completion, etc.?
Okay, so just want to make a clarification that sites that are participating in the hybrid project don't have a CCA coach at the site because they don't have a license. But if you're talking about sites that are on the license pathway, the child care aware coach is responsible for entering they have timelines that are required by their position to support licensed pathway sites. So it will be them adding and creating the original QIP goals, action plans. And the question is, can another coach who's helping support also contribute to that? So Jonathan, is that technologically possible?
I don't know. We will ask our partners out there in Coachland. It's interesting. So you can certainly go, if another coach has already entered a QIP for a site that you're also assigned to, I will ask you to go ahead and go in there and check that out and see if you can you should be able to at least see it, but to see if you can also have the edit capability. I'm going to guess because you're assigned to that site that you will, but I'm not 100% sure. And you can go ahead and let us know at the QIS inbox if you are unable to do that, and we'll see what's going on and make sure that that's accessible to you.
Okay, that's great. Because there must be, if it's a licensed pathway site, maybe there's an ECEAP only classroom hanging out that we have an early achievers coach supporting that one classroom within the site. So
right. So, of course, all the QIP information, et cetera, is connected to the site as a whole, not to an individual classroom. Although, again, if you're doing that staff professional development and training goal, you can connect that to an individual staff person who's at that site in the QIP.
Okay. And the goals can have multiple action plans going, yeah? So back here, if I'm like creating an action plan, I could create another one under the same one, right? Wouldn't I be able to?
I'll have to check that in a second.
Okay, great. Because I'm just thinking like different classrooms at a site are going to need different action plans based on what they're working on, even if the site needs to work on this big overarching goal. Okay, great. Questions? Any others, Kelly? We have about 15 minutes left.
We do have more, but in the essence of time, let's move forward, and we can always do more Q&A at the end.
Okay, that sounds great. So I wanted to take you to the SQL website. So hang on one second. I am hiding my screen, so hang on one second. There's no technical difficulties yet. Okay, there. Okay, so I have taken you to the SQL website. The reason I've taken you here and clicked on coaching up here on this green band is because I wanted to show you or remind you that this website that UW has is a great place for you to go to get sample goals, action plans, and handouts. So you can click on, this one is around curriculum, staff support, but I'm going to just click this one over here, goal setting. Okay, there. Okay, And so it will give me, you know, an idea of like what my big overarching broad goal might be, and then an idea of what I might want to have my action plan look like. And so there's multiple ones that you can take a look at and see if that helps you. Okay. Yeah, so those live right here on this website. The other thing is I figure I could, and it's not that I'll take you to the, I was going to take you to the DEL website, but I'm not going to do that until just 1 second. I want to move through a couple of different slides. So, hang on. Okay, so questions from the field. We have heard a lot about what are the timelines regarding a finalized rating for a site and when a QIP needs to be entered into WELS. We hear that quite a bit. And so what I want to share with you today is this is the way that we are leaning, is that if a site is rated level 2, then you're looking at about 30 days to create that quality improvement plan. And if the site is rated at a level 4, you're looking at a little bit more flexibility, around 30 to 60 days to get the QIP created. Keep in mind that level 2 is going to need to go through the re-rating process, which is why we're looking at a quick turnaround on that QIP being developed, really making some quick choices around how they can improve to go through the re-rating process within 6 months. So we wanted to share this, even though it is subject to change. But we didn't want you to not have at least some context around timelines as you move forward in this work. So this is a good place for you to start and kind of wrap your mind around this work. Kelly.
So Karen is asking, for a site that was rated last June, when are goals expected to be entered and completed, and how long can a goal remain in progress? Is there a timeline on the actual goal?
So a site that was rated last June? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would want to, I would say you're looking at the 30 to 60 day QIP date from like today. This is the day that we're sharing it with you. So start focusing on like, you know, okay, they've been rated a long time, and now you have about 30 to 60 days from today's date to kind of move towards creating that. I think that's a safe way to do it. Jonathan, you have to follow up on something that was
Well, I'm just going to go back to the earlier question, just to clarify. You can have one goal for a particular standard or element, but you can have more than one action plan. And so that coincides with what Sue was saying as far as having a broader goal for that particular standard element, such as the class combined learning environment. But you can set up one or however many individual action plans that are addressing different subscales and items within that particular standard element. So that's up to you. And within those action plans, you can set different timelines. And I'm not seeing any limit on as far as how long the timeline is. Mm-hmm. And again, that's what will then feed into your homepage as far as what action plans are not due yet, coming due, overdue, etc. So just be aware of that when you see that there's a connection there. And just to go back to Shayna's, you should be fixed with the regional coordinator role removed from your.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, that's great.
I did have one brief update. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but related to the coaching companion, because I know we discussed a couple, or on the last webinar before that, about having a data feed from WELS, from the Quality Improvement Plan, to the coaching companion, and that is in progress. We're just waiting for one of those wonderful things that we have to have in place, which is a data share agreement, which we have already between our departments and the University of Washington, because of course we're sharing data between different agencies. Mm-hmm. And we have an agreement in place, but we have to update it to include this particular data feed. And once that's in place, we'll be able to, we have everything technologically set up and ready to go. We'll be able to start sending the data from WELS to the coaching companion, which the UW is involved with how that works. And then we'll be able to explain to you how you can access that information in the coaching companion from the sites that you're connected to. So stay tuned for that. It always takes a little bit of time when we have these kinds of government-to-government, agency-to-agency agreements. So, but we haven't forgotten about that. It's still in the works.
That's cool. That's great. Kelly?
A couple more QIP questions. Christine has asked, she's created a QIP, but once created, she's unable to get to the action planning piece.
Well, that's not good. Jonathan, what do you have to say about that?
I saw you, is that Christine Wilson?
Yes.
I saw your early email, Christine, and what I'll do is I saw that you wanted me to give you a contact, so I will do that when I get a chance. I'll take a look at what's going on with your WELS access so we can figure out what's happening.
Yeah, that's definitely not something we want to have delaying you.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
And Molly is asking, when a QIP is completed, do we need to create a new one?
Well, so Molly, real quick, the now the QIP is so I think you're asking about, because the QIP is all of these things, and so when you meet a goal, close it out and you can start a new one. But you're really not going to actually have too many goal switchovers because they're so broad. So you're going to if it turned out that you met that goal, then you could close it out. But the QIP is really just all of these goals that you're working on at the site. Do I have that right, everybody? Yeah?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Good. Okay. So let us know if that helped. Okay. So let me, it looks like we have about 7 or 8 minutes here. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy going through these slides so quickly. Okay, so we wanted to let you know that. And then Kelly, can you tell us, you know, coordinated support is where we have, similar to the question that came up earlier about, like, what if you have a site that's on the licensed pathway, they have a child care aware coach, but you have maybe a 100% ECEAP classroom that's in there, maybe part day and getting wraparound care or whatever, that 2 coaches or more coaches working together, that's what we're talking about when we talk about coordinated support for coaching. So Kelly, what's your update?
Yeah, sure. So we just wanted to let everyone know that DEL is partnering with SQL and Child Care Aware and creating a document around coordinated support for coaching. We have gotten feedback from coaches from the field. Both CCA and SQL have also given feedback to that, and so that will be coming soon. So just wanted to let everybody know that.
That's really great. Do you have a Herring Center update for us?
I do. So we are so excited that we got 54 coaches registered for Herring Center internships. The Herring Center has reached capacity and the registration is now closed. Staff from Herring Center are contacting coaches directly, and I believe that all registered coaches should have been contacted by now. So if you believe you're registered for an internship coming up in April, May, June, and you have not yet heard, please email your pre-K specialist and let them know, and they can get in touch with me. And we will continue to advocate for more internships in the future. This has been a well sought after opportunity, so we'll continue advocating for more.
That's great. And we will probably be asking those of you who made it through the Herring Center internship this year, we might want to hear how it went and any tips for our webinars for next year.
And Molly so kindly replied that she attended the internship this past week, and it was truly worthwhile.
Oh, yay.
So thank you, Molly, for sharing that.
Thanks, Molly. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, and this is our resources page. Well, we wanted to tell you we have a couple of wonky things going on with our Department of Early Learning ECEAP page. There have been at least a few coaches who have let us know things are missing, and so we are having some technical challenges. We were missing some of our coach webinars, and they are now back online. And I'm going to take you right now to our DEL homepage. Watch them be missing again. Okay, so we do have, they have reappeared. Please let us know if you see anything missing that you're needing to have access to, because we can let our communications department know that they've gone rogue. And but the reason I'm bringing you here is not only to show you, the coaching resources that many of you know we have here, but I wanted to tell you how to get to the Early Achievers Operating Guidelines. So if you go to our homepage, you can just click up here. What I do is, you go right here. Over here to the left, the icon that says Early Achievers, you click on that. And then you scroll down. And I always go right here to Early Achievers for Head Start and ECEAP. And it brings me to the page that's kind of designated and reserved for you guys. And then you'll see here the Early Achievers Operating Guidelines. And it will look like this. And just as Jonathan said earlier, the first portion is really related to the license pathway. And then the second portion of the document actually is all about Early Achievers for Head Start and ECEAP participants on the Head Start ECEAP pathway.
So if you have both Head Start ECEAP pathway and license pathway sites, both parts of this document will apply to you. If you have just one or the other, obviously in our case it might just be ECEAP sites, and the second half would be what will apply.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I think these are hyperlinked too, so you can just jump to at least the main portion of it to get additional help. So that was that.
Can you go back to the webinars for a moment, Sue, on the DEL website? I'd like to show coaches another way to access the webinars if some turn up missing.
Yes, I can. So let me, we're working to redesign our website, just so you know, a little tidbit there. But I'm going to go over here to information for ECEAP contractors. I scoot over here to ECEAP forms and documents. And then
could you click on a webinar, please?
Yeah. So let's say I click on the October Coach webinar.
So you can see that when you click on any of the webinars, it takes you to the YouTube channel where the webinars are located, and you can click on an older webinar and still find some of the other webinars up next. You'll see the
everyone. I mean, it's a webinar within a webinar.
Excuse that interruption. The coach orientation is there, and as you keep clicking on them, it pulls up other webinars. You can see the January coach webinar down below. They're kind of intermixed amongst other YouTube videos, but you can find them. Should one disappear from the website, there may be another way to access it.
I wanted
to let you know that.
I think that's really helpful. And it looks we are running low on time, but this is actually perfect timing. We have another webinar coming up next month, Thursday, April 7th from 9 to 10:30. And Kelly will be sending out a webinar invite so that you can join us again. Please know that if we did not get to your question today, we will work to respond to you and get you the answers that you want. We'll also take those questions and think about how it might help contribute to next month's webinar. I hope that you found today to be a good use of your time. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to one of us, Karen Dans, Sue Rose, or Kelly DeBoer. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.